But my 10-year-old came to my son Dawson and said, Dawson, you went from being like a really, really good kid, he's 10, to like on fire for Jesus, like in love with God. What happened? And Dawson said to Justice, 16-year-old to the 10-year-old, I had a moment at Bold Conference last summer where I just encountered God. And ever since then, it hasn't been mom and dad's, it's been my relationship. And so Justice started mimicking his older brother. So they share a bedroom, and when Dawson prays, he paces like his dad. Well, Justice started pacing when he prays. And my dad went in with COVID in November, and he was 25 days in at this point, and the doctor started telling us that he wasn't going to make it, that he was going to die, and my son Justice came to my wife Renata on December 9th, and he had been up in his room pacing and praying for Poppy. And he came to Renata and he said, Mom, Renata's my wife, sorry, said, Mom, I was praying for Poppy, and I felt like God told me that tomorrow's going to be Poppy's best day. And so as a mom, there's Renata knowing that the doctors are telling us that my dad's not going to make it. And the doctors said that our family was living in denial. And the doctors said that my dad, the only way he would ever go home is if they built a hospital around the house. And so Renata's got that, and then she's got this 10-year-old boy saying this, and she said, I stand with you, son, and believe. And the next day, Thursday, December 10th, my dad had a nurse come in, and he'd been 60 liters of oxygen. And they had told him he had already written out his funeral, and he had already talked to people who he was inviting to sing and speak at his funeral. And we were already in that process. And the nurse came in, and she turned down his oxygen 55, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. My dad's first thought was, she's killing me here. This lady, what's wrong with, what's happening here? And the lady turned to my dad and said, Mr. Perkins, you don't need it. And the doctor came in and said, I don't know how to explain this, but you've experienced a miracle today. And my dad says, yeah, thank you. And I'll be telling this story the rest of my life. But my son, my 10-year-old son, went to his 16-year-old brother and said, hey, Doss, you know how you just had your moment at Bold Conference? He said, well, when I was up in the bedroom praying for Poppy, and then God healed him the next day, I had my moment. And here's what I see. I see the faithfulness of God in a 10-year-old. And a 10-year-old is saying, he is not just the God of our ancient mom and dad. He is not just the faithful God that I read about or hear about on Sundays, or the VeggieTales that have discipled me. He is the faithful God to me.